Welcome back. Dark Recaps here. In today's video, I will tell you about 3 true, scary ghost encounters that took place in the early 19th century. Before we continue, if you have a suggestion on how I can improve my content, leave me a comment. Otherwise, consider browsing through some of my other, chilling, true scary stories on my channel. Let's begin. In death. There is an old saying, when you are good to a person who is sick, they will never forget it. When you are not good to a person who is sick, well, they will never forget it. As you can recall past incidents in your life, I'm sure it will be easy to agree with this statement. Sometimes when a person is bad to another, they never forget it, even in death. In 1896, a man who lived in Albany, Ohio, had a wife who was unable to care for herself. She would often fall and would beg for him to help her up. He, however, was a very cruel man that cursed her for her condition and mocked her while she lay on the floor. Many times, he would leave her laying for days in a spot on the floor before he finally helped her up. Unfortunately, she had no one to turn to for help and had to endure her husband's cruelty. One morning, as the lady weakly made her way across the living room floor to warm herself by the fireplace, her muscles gave out and she fell, landing way too close to the fire. The heat was so unbearable on her neck and shoulders that she begged her husband to pick her up and move her away from the fire. He only laughed and refused. After hours of moaning in pain and pleading for mercy, her husband helped her up. It was discovered that the heat from the fire had burned her badly, so he placed her in bed, cursing at her for her condition. To the husband's surprise, his wife died from the burns and he had her quickly buried before anyone could discover what happened. Within a few months, the man married again, and upon returning home with his new wife, the two tried to get settled into day-to-day life around the house. As the new wife sat in the living room one evening, warming herself by the fireplace, she gasped as a lady approached her. The figure was that of a woman, but not a human, for she could see right through her. Pulling back her ghostly hair, the woman showed her the most hideous scars along her neck and shoulders. With a pale finger, she pointed to the fireplace and then again to her scars. The new wife quickly retreated from the room and found her husband, telling him the whole story. He only laughed and accused her of having too much wine. She insisted he go into the living room with her and see for himself. The husband's smile soon faded as he entered the living room and came face to face with the ghost of his departed wife. Just as she had done for the new bride, she reenacted for him. She had not forgotten and had obviously returned as a warning to the new bride to beware of the cruel man. It is unknown the fate of the new bride and if she eventually endured the same cruel treatment from the man, but the house was quickly put up for sale and the couple left town. Arkansas City Ghost. In the year 1896, H.G. Chip Chase sat at the local Arkansas City, Kansas, train depot, talking to one of the waiting passengers and shooting the breeze. The conversation fell to many of the reports in the local newspaper about a ghostly woman that had been seen several times about town. The two men laughed as they recalled the stories and quickly dismissed them as made-up tales by the more superstitious citizens in town. As the men shared a laugh, 2 frightened boys ran up to the train conductor and grabbed him by the arm. "Calm down, boys. Catch your breath," the conductor said. "What seems to be the trouble?" Finally, one of the boys choked out the word, "Ghost." "Come see," gasped the other boy. Mr. Chip Chase, curious and having nothing better to do that night, followed along behind the boys as they came to the home of the conductor. There they found his wife in an awful panic. She claimed that as she worked about the house, she turned to see a ghostly woman, clothed in a white dress, standing just a few feet away from her. Alarmed, she screamed and the ghost disappeared through the wall, just as if it had been made of fog. The conductor's wife did notice something very strange about the ghost. She stated that it was wearing a pattern of dress that had been in style over 15 years in the past. The conductor, knowing his wife to be a sober and honest woman, assembled a group of 15 people who were to split up and search the neighborhood in the Walnut Street area. Each vowed that they would find the ghost and call to the others when it was discovered. As the group walked through the dark, quiet streets, suddenly a startled call was heard. "We found it. Come quickly." When all arrived, there in the middle of a city street was the plain figure of a woman in a glowing white dress with a bustle. The bright moon shined on her figure, and there was no mistaking that she was real. Mr. Chipchase commented that she seemed larger than an average-sized woman, and perhaps it was a man dressed in women's clothing. He estimated that she must have weighed around 225 pounds and was taller than any woman that he knew in the city. As the crowd walked towards the lady in white, she gave them all an eerie glare and stretched out her arms towards the sky. With a flash, she disappeared before everyone, leaving them in awe and sending fear through their bones. Mr. Chipchase had not been a believer in ghosts before that night, but claimed the incident converted him into a believer of the supernatural. "I am convinced that the Arkansas City ghost is a genuine article," Mr. Chipchase said. "I just hope I never meet up with it again. I know it was real, and so do a lot of other people who were there that night, and I will swear on my mother's grave that there was not a man there that had anything harder to drink than a glass of lemonade. It was real, I tell you." The ghost seers. In many instances, a person who is born with a special ability to see ghosts may describe them as a flame or a vapor that appears similar to a fire. Several cases of this have been reported throughout history, one being a certain ghost seer named Miss Reichel. Miss Reichel was said to have been a very sensitive person who lived in the early 1800s and often visited the old cemeteries in Vienna, where there were thousands of graves. She claimed that she could see the spirits of the dead floating about and resembling a flame. Some of the flames were small, but many of them were large enough to take on human forms. One night, Miss Reichel was taken to the cemetery by a scientist who was very much interested in her unique gift. He documented that although he couldn't see the flames, she described them to him perfectly. Over some of the graves were small flames, and over the newer graves, the flames were larger. The older graves had no flames over them at all. She described the flame as something between fire and fog, mixed together. When she stood in the middle of the flames, they came up to her neck, but she wasn't afraid. She had been doing this with them since her childhood. She was amused by it. The scientist was convinced that these appearances only occur to the most sensitive of people. Another instance of a ghost seer was a man named Billing, who lived in a town named Comer in 1849. He was said to have been a very nervous and jumpy young man. Almost everything frightened him, and he always seemed withdrawn. Billing had a daily job of escorting a gentleman named Mr. Pfeffel, who was blind and liked to go on daily walks through his garden. Billing would take him by the arm and lead the elderly gentleman slowly through the grounds. Mr. Pfeffel walked with a cane and moved very slowly. He was sharp in wit and enjoyed talking as the two walked. One morning, as they walked through a place in the garden, Mr. Pfeffel felt Billing jump back. "What is it? What scared you so?" Mr. Pfeffel asked. "Nothing," Billing replied. As they walked forward again, Billing jerked back, just as if he had been hit with a bolt of electricity. Mr. Pfeffel demanded he explain himself, to which Billing replied, "It's just this feeling I get when I am in the presence of fresh human remains. I've been this way since I was a child. It has always been a chore for me to walk through a cemetery, and I often avoid them unless necessary." "Well, good night, son. You've just about scared the wits out of me. Take me back to the house," Mr. Pfeffel barked. How in the world could a body know there were human remains out here? Billing told Mr. Pfeffel if he would go on a walk with him that night to the same spot, he could explain it more clearly. Mr. Pfeffel agreed, and the two returned to the spot that night. "Oh, Mr. Pfeffel," Billing said. "There is a flame that is about 5 feet high, hovering over the spot we visited this morning. It is in the shape of a young lady. She is covering her heart with one hand and her other hand is at her side. She is moving about us now, to our right, now to our left, now behind you. Mr. Pfeffel took his cane and sliced through the apparition, but Billing told him it only cut through it for a split second and then the form came back together. Mr. Pfeffel insisted that his family go walking with Billing over the next few nights to find out if they could see the ghost. Billing explained to them the same things, but they could not see it, only him. Horrified and somewhat curious, Mr. Pfeffel hired a crew of men to go and dig up the spot. Just a few feet down, they discovered the body of a young lady that had been covered in quicklime. Obviously, the victim of a recent murder. Mr. Pfeffel kept the discovery a secret from Billing and returned to the spot in the garden several nights later. He asked him to describe the ghost again, but Billing replied it was not there anymore. "The flame is gone," he said. "She has left." Thanks for sticking around if you made it to the end. I hope you enjoyed your time here. If you did, please consider leaving a like on this video. It really helps my channel out. If you're hungry for more content like this, subscribe to me. Dark Recaps. Take care, and I'll see you guys next time.